Previously on Garage 23.
Welcome to 2022 and get up. So, welcome to Garage 23, and this is our Razor Crest build, a 2019 Nissan Armada 4-wheel drive, which we bought a patrol badge for because it's not supposed to be a mall crawler. But anyway, we have a Ironman shock and spring on this, which basically lifts it about 3 inches. I think we have the 2.5 inch option on the back, but that's enough to screw up our suspension geometry and screw up our alignment, and if you may or may not be able to tell, eat up our tires prematurely. And we've just basically been dealing with it because there's no other options to fix it other than the eccentric bushings, I think that some people use, which I don't know, it doesn't seem like an adequate solution to me. But we're going to be going over what I want to try and do in this video, which is to fabricate an adjustable upper control arm to be able to alleviate the positive camber issues that come when you lift your truck more than 2 inches. So let's take a closer look. Well, hello there. Fancy meeting you here. So if you have an Armada built anywhere from 2004 or something till 2020, your undercarriage should look something like this. And particularly if you lifted it with coils for a nice suspension lift. The main issue is that, if you can see here, our toe adjustment is maxed out. So this is as far outward as this will go. And when you lift it, the lower control arm basically stays inboard, so you need to adjust it outward. But the problem with that is that that kind of affects your toe also. So with this already being maxed out and you still having positive camber, and you trying to fix it by adding negative camber through the lower control arm here, that's going to push the front of the tire out, giving you toe out, which is very undesirable. You do not want to have toe out on the rear of your vehicle. That's gonna make it like super squirrely, and it's gonna eat up your tires, as evidenced by our tire here of having been driven on the better part of 6 or 7 months now in this condition. But so the main issue with this is that this adjustment was meant for the stock ride height. So the stock springs or whatever would eventually settle and lower a bit, and that's where your alignment would come in, because this would be able to compensate if you were a little lower. But once you go higher, especially above 2 inches, this isn't effective anymore. The issue is that the top of the tire is what needs to come in, not the bottom of the tire out, because in its current state, then all the arms in the suspension here are already pretty much maxed out. So what you want to do is to bring the top of the tire in, so we need an upper control arm that is adjustable, and that's where we come in. That's what we're trying to do. But yeah, we don't really have any inspiration to go off of. This, for whatever reason, this really hasn't been done before, and my only guess as to that is because the biggest market for these vehicles is in Australia, and obviously they have the patrol over there, and I believe they can't lift their vehicles more than 2 inches. I think that's the reason that this hasn't really been an issue before, is because for them to lift their vehicles more than 3 inches, I think it voids their registrations or something like that. There's something with their laws that makes it undesirable to lift your vehicle that much. So most if not all of them are at 1.5 inch or 2 inch lift maximum, whereas we're at about 3 inches, maybe a little more, but we're high enough to have camber issues and screw up our alignment, that's for sure. We've got an idea as to what the design should be, and we bought some parts, some very expensive parts, to try and remedy that. So I guess we can go check those out now. All right, this is not an ignorantly regulated firearm. This is in fact the upper control arm on pretty much all Armadas in the US, I think. This one in particular is off a 2006 one, which I'm led to believe is the same. I haven't verified that. I still need to take ours off and make sure that this ball joint shape thing is the same. But I mean, just by looking at it, the general shape is the same. This is what we want to modify. So this controls your upper camber, and what we want is to bring the top of the tire in. So you need to bring this upper ball joint inboard, and that poses some challenges because your stock bump stops hit right here, and there's not a whole lot of room to make anything adjustable in between here and there. So that's kind of the tricky part. And also this radius here is super tight. Like, it's gonna be tough making anything adjustable there, but that's the challenge. So to help with that, we got a nice little box from Rough Stuff Specialties, and this is some of the beefiest time joints that I've ever seen. I mean, I'm used to like S13, S14, 240SX, Nissan stuff, so seeing a time joint the size of my hand is pretty impressive. But I mean, it's kind of what you need when you have a vehicle this size. And the main part that makes this possible is this adjustable threaded bung adapter thing. Having dealt with a lot of like 350Z and 240SX stuff, you see these kind of adjusters on pretty much every suspension arm that they sell for those cars. And I've always been curious as to why you don't really see that in like 4Runners and Land Cruisers and Patrols and stuff. And these in particular, I think are marketed more towards use in like Jeeps and stuff, and some of the like Panhard rods or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, I never dealt with live axle stuff. But this will effectively let us adjust our alignment with the arm still installed in the vehicle. So that was my biggest issue with the Dirt King stuff, is that yeah, you do have adjustable camber through the threaded end links or heim joints, kind of like this one. But the issue is that when it's installed, you don't have any way to adjust it. Like, you'd have to unbolt this. You'd have to unbolt this end and thread it out by hand, then put it back, and then hope that you got closer to your alignment specs, and then tighten everything back down. That's kind of stupid. So we decided to go with something like this, so that when it's installed, everything's all bolted together, and you turn this center piece here, and that extends the entire thing. And vice versa, you turn it the other way, and it'll shrink the whole thing. So that way you can install it, take it to alignment shop, they can mess with this and get your alignment in spec. The main issue there is this thing's pretty damn big. So this needs to fit between here and here. So we barely have enough room to make this work. Like I said, your stock bump stop hits about here, so we're gonna have to make a plate or something for that to land on. And then the other heim joint's gonna sit here. And then, just to top things off, put a little icing on the cake, we got 1-inch uniballs to replace the ball joints at the front. So that'll give us more articulation and just give us a beefier joint that can take more abuse than these stock ball joints. So what you see there is about what we got for an adjustable upper control arm. And so what I'm thinking, once we have the dimensions of the stock one locked in on this jig, we can extend this out as far as it's meant to go anyway, and then make our jig based on that. So that way, when you get it, you can adjust this inward, and that'll give you all the negative camber adjustability that you'd need. Now, the issue with that is all this stuff was pretty expensive, so I don't think it's really feasible to market this, because just in materials, we're looking at about $600-ish, $500 to $600. And that's not even taking into account, you know, the welding involved, the powder coating, the shipping and all that kind of stuff. So don't get your hopes up as far as us like selling like finished sets that you can install in your car. Because I mean, we're still gonna build it and then test it and make sure that this is something that's gonna work and not potentially fail and put you into a ditch on the freeway. But as far as like you guys making them, I am open to making like a kit of like the tubing already pre-bent and everything for you guys just to buy this stuff and then have somebody weld it for you. Yeah, we're gonna get started on this here soon, and hopefully we'll be able to report back something positive. You guys will want to stay, you guys will want to check out the second gen Armada group on Facebook for updates on stuff like this. There's plenty of great people on there, and they've been super helpful and supportive. Marco C, Wannabe Patrol on YouTube, Auto Detour. There's a few good channels from guys on there that have really useful insight. There's also one guy on there right now that's in the middle of trying to do a live axle swap on his Patrol, which I had also contemplated, because that would be like the best possible mod you could do for off-road use. And I believe he's using like some kind of Chevy axle or something like that, which is awesome, and that's, you know, another way you could go. But personally, I kind of want to keep the independent suspension front and back. To me, it's like the Armada is one of the best handling SUVs you can buy. It's really similar to our Infiniti G37 or 350Z or the older 240SXs that I had. It feels just like those cars do. It handles the same way, and I really love that. And that's where it gets used 95% of the time. So for us to sacrifice the handling and performance for the 5% of the time that we're off-road kind of isn't worth it to me. But then again, that 5% when you're off-road is kind of when it matters, because you're probably in the middle of nowhere and you're probably by yourself. So it might be worth it to not get stuck somewhere. But who knows, maybe we might end up doing that in the future. But at this point, we want to see how far we can go with the stock independent suspension. So check all those guys out, check out the Facebook group, and we'll have you guys updated on there too. Thanks for watching. Down. Can you pick a spot? Okay, I guess we're just gonna have to wait for him to chill out. I am Speed. Are you done? Anyway.